Hey, it
again.
is.
This is our fifth time meeting and talking about interesting subject. This time I wanted to bring a topic that I feel I'm dealing with it maybe all my life, and it's about home. What is home? I thought about it. There's so many things. At first I thought at home is when you feel good. And then with the years, I thought maybe it's a place that you can be with everything that comes, the bad and the good, but you can be with it. And I want to talk to you about it. What does it mean for you? And also through family constellation lens. Um, you know, but first, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Iris, a family constellation facilitator and an artist. Um, I was born in a kibbutz named Bet Govrin in Israel. Um, I've been a nomad through a long period in my life. Now I reside in Durango, Colorado. Um, and I'm sitting with you, Suzi Tucker, one of my main teachers for constellation work. Suzi, you reside in Connecticut, right? Right now?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And I'm I'm very excited to talk about it because I feel it's a live subject for many people. I think especially in the US,
Mm-hmm.
that people are moving so much that it's surprising actually. Um, so what is home for you, Susie?
Well, I like the way you open, so I'm going to say, which I don't get a chance to say very often, that I was born in Hackensack, New Jersey.
Wow.
And although very soon after my birthday, um, I think I was still probably months old, we moved to Washington Heights in Manhattan. So I don't relate so much to New Jersey. I think of myself as a New Yorker. Um, and it's sort of like thinking about that, just like putting it on the map somehow. Um, so what is home? I think home is something that shifts meaning over time, perhaps. I have the feeling that you have, um, or it feels to me like I have the feeling that you have, which is home is primarily a sense of belonging somewhere, whether it's to the land or to a particular family or even to an architecture. Um, I would say that I certainly used to feel home in urban settings. So any city I went to, I felt pretty at home. Um, and now that has shifted somewhat. I still feel home in a city. It feels quite visceral, like familiar, even if I don't know the particular city. But I have gotten to also feel home in a more rural setting. I live in a rural setting. I don't live in the suburban setting. So I went kind of from um, urban to rural, which remind me of each other rhythmically in a sense. So I think belonging is a big part of home, and I think um, you said through my lens and through constellations. At this point, I don't really know the difference between those two ways of seeing. Um, but I know that there is, a lot of work that Bert Hellinger did had to do with kind of returning people to the home of themselves in a way. That, there was a sense that we leave home and then we rush out and we try to form identities and try to find others to fit in with, and there's a lot of rushing and doing and achieving and kind of looking for that place that replicates the place we came from or is the opposite of the place we came from, sort of one of those two things. And so I think that, a lot of my work, people are really asking, like, where is the home of me? Can I find the home of me? And for me, that really is about sense of belonging. So that's sort of my first answer.
So first of all, I'm surprised you live in a rural area because I had no idea. I thought you live in some kind of an urban place. That's very interesting for me to hear. Um, so the question is belonging to where? Because I know the first belonging is to the family. But many people are talking about, yeah, I was born here and there, but I don't feel I belong there. And I'm curious about it. In
So,
a, in a sense of how can they find their home in this map?
right. And I, um, so first of all, I do think it's important to most of us to leave first, right? And I think that really is about exploring definitions, ways in the world, identities outside of where we come from. Not to replace. I don't think replacement really ever works, but to enhance, right? So, the idea of, I don't feel that I belong to my original family or to my country of origin. Um, I don't know how to be respectfully suspicious, but that's how I feel. I feel respectfully suspicious that perhaps we're saying something a little bit disturbing about ourselves, right? Because I am born of a certain ancestry, I am born of a certain land, I didn't arrive fully born and create my own identity. I am from somewhere and some people. So the idea of enhancement and expansion assumes a root system, right? Um, I'm going to do a retreat already planning in next spring. And it's called Of Roots and Wings, um, because to me, these images go together that we can sort of open our wings wide if we have the trunk, right? And even as I do this, that's what I'm showing. I'm showing that I actually feel very good stretching my arms. It feels so good. But my vertebrae are stacked and my core is pretty solid. And my trunk, we call it a trunk, right, is in place. And then I can reach out for, and I see that same structure with regard to where we come from, right? Um, so if the not belonging is around sort of moving into the wider world, bringing with bringing with me my original belonging, that feels safe. It feels beautiful. It feels important. Um, but if I am erasing or severing ties with and then going out, that feels more difficult. And both in the sense of my own safety, I come alone, and also in the sense of what I'm asking of the world. Am I really asking too much of the world to fill in what I don't feel I have? That's a lot to ask.
Yeah. What comes to mind for me is many people who are saying, okay, I had a challenging childhood. Maybe I was beaten or something like that. So now I'm going to create a new life. Um, how do you, what thread do you give them? How to connect to their belonging? Because it's a challenging, yeah.
And I love that. I love the idea that I'm going to find or create something that feels more generative and more nutritious than my, very specific kitchen table. I really support that. I love it. Um, and I think that the future needs something to adhere to, needs something to gather around. So when I think of just this image we're talking about, I think about the difficult childhood, the difficult parents, perhaps, even the difficult grandparents, perhaps. And maybe by difficult, I really mean difficult. Like you said, the child is beaten or abused in some way or neglected or um, so criticized that they live in great anxiety, all of those things. I think of that, first of all, that comes from somewhere. So the first image is that comes from somewhere. And the parents are navigating something behind them and it's getting displaced onto the child. But the child did not engender that. The child did not cause that. It seems like such a simple thing. And children, we grow up and we know that, but we don't know it. We don't. We both know it in an intellectual way, and our therapists tell us that, and we read it in books. But in the core of us, in the home of us, we actually don't know it. We think we could have done something better. We think we could have not been born. We think we are causation somehow. So that first very simple thing is, uh, I think, actually profound, right? As simple things often are. Um, but then the other aspect of that is I see, and you've heard me say it a million times, I see parents as gatekeepers and a gate swings, right? And so for me, the difficult childhood, if we open the gates, right? So parents stay in place, but we allow the gates to open. So when the child looks back, they have more than their parents to look to for their own content. And they begin to see what flows toward them in a more generative way. Right? So when I think of, and I maybe talked about him every session we've been in, when I think of my father and he had difficulties and whatever, but I think of him as a gate, as a person, but also as a gate. And when he opens that gate, like all of Hungary comes forward, right? The smells, the food, the music, the culture, right? The soil, all of that comes forward. And I began to get a sense of belonging that is bigger, less specific than this one man. So he's both extremely important as a gatekeeper, right? And also less important when the gate opens and there's this great expanse of content which is inside me. Now I don't feel the need to erase or sever because I have a stronger sense of what I am born of. And when I come to you, I come with that belonging. I don't ask you to make up for him. I don't ask you to make up for what I feel I didn't get and may not have gotten, right? I actually come with my content and I offer it to our collaboration.
it wasn't something I thought we're gonna go to, but I'm thinking about parents who, by trying to protect the children from something really bad that happened, they close the gate. They just close it.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And the kid looks back, he, there is a closed gate. It's out of love, but still it's kind of a cut. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's right. And I think, we're talking about homes, right? And of course, gates are right in the front of homes often, or someplace on the property in a home, or in front of an apartment building, or where I grew up in brownstones in New York. There were gates always to the little tiny gardens before you went up the stairs of the brownstone. So I think when the gates are closed, and you're right, it's often protectively. And whether it is because a grandfather was a child molester, or because there was war 2 generations back, right? When parents do this, then when the child looks back, all they see is the parents. And parents on their own are not enough. We think we are, but we are not. We are not. We are, part of our offering is what we do for and with our children, but part of our offering is what we are portals for,
Yeah.
right? And going back to home for just a second, when we're very young, the home is where the most important parent is. That's what it feels like, right? And even if the parent is abusive, when we are really young, we understand that as being home, because we are dependent. As we become less dependent, our idea of home can expand. And it doesn't only expand in front of us, it can expand behind us as well.
Okay. So a, an adopted child that knows in his heart that there's more than just the adoptive parents. I just wonder what sense of home can he gather to the future, that he knows that there's something that he doesn't know, if he doesn't know the biological parents. How can he?
So really the first thing, again, really, really like simple but fundamental, and the world really tries to, I think, out of protection, actually, going back to your protection, where the world tries to protect the adopted child from uh, um, something that might be painful, but actually is absolutely integral to who they are, right? So sometimes the world, parents, agencies, schools, friends, protect the adoptive child from their own lineage, from knowledge of their own lineage, and even lie to children. Don't tell them. If I don't tell my child that they're adopted, I'm lying to my child. I'm lying by omission. And they must suffer the experience of knowing and not being allowed to know,
Oh.
right? Knowing and not being allowed to know. So for me, the first thing about adoption, the fundamental thing, is you come from people who actually gave you a way to live. They didn't just give you a way, they gave you a way to live. And now the people who stand behind you, right behind you, are 4 people, right? The people who are responsible for your literal birth, and the people who stepped up to this extraordinary responsibility and said, entrust this life to us. We will take it from here. And then behind them are generations of generations, 4 lines, right? So, sense of belonging, sense of home for this child uh, rests with the people who gave them away, and including El Salvador or Syria or China or North Korea or wherever it is, right? Senegal, all of that content, and the people who actually were entrusted with the life.
So to feel at home needs a sense of belonging.
I think that's primarily, really primarily it. And I think that that can become distorted when I kind of don't have that sense in me and I click into a landscape or, I mean, a group of people where suddenly I feel that and I stay severed from what I bring and I place too much emphasis here so that these people can't continually rise to the occasion. In fact, somebody may die, for instance, and then does my belonging go away, or is my belonging still there no matter what the conditions are around me?
It takes me to, I'm looking at you and I see that you are in a house, and I'm really wondering what is the connection of the house you're actually living in right now to a home? I mean, yeah.
So I feel everything is relational, I suppose it is, and I think that, the home that we live in, first of all, and I teach this in my classes that, you know a lot about your clients, for instance, or your students, by the setting, right? And if you look at my setting, it's not just about taste, it's maybe about taste as well, but it is also about, like, what is it that Susie values? Right? There are some things that just by I could keep my mouth totally silent, which, I have a hard time with,
Mhm.
but I could. Um, and you could look and you could see something of what I value. So you know something about my sense of belonging through what I value, right? And then if you asked questions about what I value, everything behind me comes from somewhere, right? Everything behind me has a lineage, right? So now I'm not talking about my ancestors. They also have a lineage, but I mean the physical items behind me. And so I nurture my relationship with my shelter by filling it with things I love, by filling it with things I love.
I'm thinking about people who took a Airbnb and it's not even their belongings. They just live there. I'm really trying to, I don't know, there's something I don't understand between a home and a house and the connection between them, because there is a importance in family constellation to where I was born, the land, the house. So how is it coming together when we're talking
Because that's
about?
about that's indicative or signifiers for ancestry, really, right? So there is a way in which, for instance, I grew up, excuse me, I grew up in apartments and I never wanted to own anything. I loved renting apartments. I loved apartment buildings. I loved the smell of them. I love the population being right next to one another and on top of each other. I love being annoyed by the clicking of the shoes above my head. I loved it. I just loved it. Why did I love it? I loved it because I was born into it, and it was the, like, heartbeat of the home that I always knew, right? That's, like, my personal right. I also had an experience, I felt the experience even before I could name it, that I didn't want to own things, right? And actually owning this house is still to this day a little bit uncomfortable for me. And maybe in these particular times, that's ramping up a little bit. And one of the things that I relate that to is both on my mother and my father's side for different reasons. My father's side, because he was a Jew living in Hungary. My mother's side, because she was very poor. She grew up very poor in Indiana. This sense that what you own can be taken away from you, right? So owning for me is not an indication of security in a way. It's actually vaguely threatening.
That's so interesting, but I understand it. Um, so it takes me back to what is home. The house you're in, let's say if it's yours or not, let's put it aside for now. Can you call it home? Or home is actually your family, your lineage?
I think it is your lineage. And I think it is the reason it's difficult when people say they don't belong, and I have a respectful suspicion, is because there is, the idea of reconciliation, going back to the beginning, the idea of reconciliation as defined the way Bert Hellinger defined it was bringing together parts that have been separated, right? So that's about belonging. The parts fit together, they belong together. Part of that is what I am born of, made me who I am. And that is true whether I'm in a house or a rented apartment or an Airbnb or wherever it is I am. And my relationship with my shelter, the symbol of a home, I live in the symbol of a home, right? My home is here. And I live in a symbol of a home. And my relationship with the symbol over the years has become more easeful, right? But it is a symbol. And one of the things that I think is different from both the traumas that my mother and father experienced is that if I lost my home, the symbol of my home, I do not feel I would lose the home of me.
Wow, I feel it was very brave of you to buy the house. Be willing to put yourself in such a risk. That's really impressive. Um, what is, let's talk about buying a home and what does it mean when you, in family constellation? Because what does it mean?
I don't know. In some ways I don't know. I think the clarity is that we accept the exchange of buying things. I buy this shirt, I buy this house, I buy whatever. But we don't really own the things in a certain way, right? Everything is a timeshare, right? If I can use that metaphor, everything is a timeshare. Our lives are a timeshare, right? And we can adorn our lives with as much as we can possibly acquire, and we still don't get to determine how long the timeshare lasts, right? So I think that there is, maybe this is an odd connection, but I'm relating it to this idea that peace begins in the soul. right? And that we can live very humbly. And if we are at peace, then the humble abode, the humble home, can be an extraordinary and beautiful place. And we can live very, very ornately with great embellishment and gold gild. And if we don't have peace in the soul, then we are not protected. We are not safe. We are not protected. And we are not actually at one with ourselves, right? So I'll tell a funny little thing. Where I am in Connecticut, there's a lot of money around me. So I always said we were diversity for this part of Connecticut because we didn't have a lot of money. And my son had a very, very good friend, has a very, very good friend who lived in a huge house, beautiful, a really beautiful house. But he spent all his time here. And he would do this funny thing. He would come in the house and he would lie down on the kitchen floor. And I know it was like, what a strange thing to do. But I felt like he would just like come in and throw himself into this nest that felt to him like a home. And he could almost feel like the love and the care and the acceptance more than anything else, really. The agreement to him exactly as he is. And that it was preferable in certain ways, to the shelter or the symbol where he didn't get to feel that. Right?
Yeah. It's, I don't know, I had something, but it got lost.
Well, the peace begins in the soul, maybe.
Yes. So to create peace within ourselves, it's almost like to say, I agree to myself as I am. And with that, you agree to everybody behind you as they are. And even when I say it, I agree to myself as I am, I'm not even sure how my body feels.
Right. It is a felt, right? I love that. I love that because it is like people confuse it, first of all. They confuse it with like resignation. And I think it's the opposite of resignation. I think fighting with who we are and fighting with where we come from, that's resignation, actually.
Suzi, what is resignation?
So resignation means like to like, okay, whatever, I accept it. She did the best she could, right? That's a big, when people say that to me, I love when people say that to me because it's a false statement, right? You know, they did the best they could. She did the best she could. I did the best I could. That's resignation, right? Obviously, in my mind, resignation has a hand gesture and a little bit of an accent. um, so, you know, for me, like the fighting of our content, right, is a surrendering to it, right? It is not an agreement. It is a saying yes when we mean no. And there's a real tension in that, right? Agreeing to myself as I am and agreeing to where I come from exactly the way it was is actually the beginning of the possibility of change, right? That it, when I agree to myself as I am, right? When I just allow life to have come to me as it did, and for me to have made all of the mistakes that I have made, which I have made many.
You did?
Be- well, really just two, but anyway,
Yeah.
1,000 mistakes, right? 10,000 mistakes, right? When I agreed to them And some of them I can name, and some of them I probably don't remember, and some of them were mistakes judged by me and maybe not by you, right? All of them, the whole mess of them. When I can agree to that, then I can be in the present and I can imagine doing things differently. When I don't agree to my own questionable choices, or when I don't agree to my parents' choices, or when I don't agree to my lineages, ancestries choices, then I actually am in the past and I'm still fighting the past and I'm not in the present. And so I can't do anything differently. So for me, agreement in this sense is really the opposite of resignation, and it opens the door to change,
Yeah, it sounds so
right?
simple,
Oh,
and I know it's not.
it is
Yeah,
heroic.
heroic. Exactly. That's a
It
good
is
word for it.
heroic. But
And
the relief that comes from it is also great, right? So, that peace begins in the soul idea. That's a gift for me first and a gift for others second. It's a gift for me first. And I don't feel it all the time, but when I do, I feel like I can move, right? I can shift. Things can expand. I am not at the mercy of my conditions. I am home.
no, I love that. And I'm thinking it takes me to self-love. That the essence is actually, well, again, what is love, but self-compassion or good eyes toward yourself.
I like that. I like that. I like good eyes toward yourself. I like that phrase. I like that phrase because it is sort of, um, I've never used it before, but now it's going to get added to my vocabulary. But when I think about, when I think about like looking at others, and I think about looking with a soft gaze, and that basically is looking with good eyes so that I can see the whole. And then I can figure out some things. I can figure out whether maybe this is not a good place for me to be. And that's okay, right? I don't have to destroy you, and I don't have to destroy me. So you look with soft eyes. And I think when I look in the mirror, when I am at my best, I look with soft eyes. I look with care versus callousness or carelessness. And I value rather than devalue. And then I can even change some things because I'm not so busy hating myself. We get very busy hating ourselves.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job.
I wonder why. I wonder if it's connected to the Western culture or it's a seed that humans just have, but I don't have any answer for that.
No, I don't really either. Although I think when we look at all of our ancestors, the whole world, right, there is first of all, there's tremendous violence in every ancestry, whoever we are. And maybe now it's flipped and now the different people are doing it, right? But it's in every ancestry. And, that terrible habit of knowing our belonging through separation versus knowing our belonging through inclusion, I think has been with us since the beginning. right? Since we stood upright, we've never quite stood upright.
Mhm. It, I don't know why it brings me a memory that at some point in my life I went to live in the Judean desert in the Dead Sea in Israel, and it's it's one of the times that I came and I just felt at home. I I don't even know what it means, but I felt belonging. And I'm trying to explain it to myself through our conversation because it wasn't acceptance of my lineage or anything. It was just this place that I felt at home in. And I'm curious about it. And
I think it's
people talk about it, that they come to a land that they never know and they just feel a connection or at home or, these words that they feel a big connection to this land or place or house or.
no, I certainly so first of all, I don't know that it's not about your lineage, right? Because right? That's one thing.
Right.
um and it's funny because there are two places where I have really felt that in such a profound way, where it's almost like I mean, I imagine it's like somebody's religious experience or something, right? It's like full tilt, head to toe and every cell and all of that. And one place I feel that is in Provincetown, which is a particular cultural center in the United States, which has a bunch of elements that I can point to, but then something that I can't understand, right? Like I don't know. And part of the elements are like a tremendous diversity of population, um, a tremendous sense of belonging in the sense of, I always say, you can't beat it. Transvestites running down the beach, like that's the best, right? It's just everybody on this tiny spit of land and on the ocean. So for me, the ocean, like the desert, that expanse, there's something about right sizing ourselves, right? Not in terms of other people, but just in terms of the biologic expanse of the ocean or the desert, right? Um, and the other place I felt that was actually in Senegal, which is much more like, uh, well, it has both the desert and the ocean. And when I think about that, I think, well, there are these two expansions or expansivenesses, which are like this, and then there is the light. So it's kind of an axis. It's like this openness of the sky, the openness of the ocean, the openness of the desert, the humility of me, the tiniest, the smallness of who I am and how restful that is. I can't compete with the ocean. I can't compete with the desert. I don't compete with the sky. And it's like I can belong in all of my frailty and all of my everything, but I'm not sure that's not ancestral.
Mm, interesting. Yeah. So how can people gather these moments? Because this is the moments that life feels so great. And I'm thinking if a person comes to me and says, I went abroad to Europe and I felt completely at home in England. Should I move there? Do you see it as footprints to the future or no, just gather the moment and see what happens?
I love that. Yes, you should.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Well, but so it goes back to what we were saying in the beginning. It puts too much pressure on England, right? So we have to unfold the map in both directions to find the home of the home within the person, so that everything that the person comes from, they bring with them to the new place, England or the chosen family or whatever, or the new religion, whatever it is. Because if they don't do that, then where they go to will falter, will definitely disappoint them, because it's too much for them. The I had this little trail of something. Okay, so I'll say this other thing first, and maybe the other that will come back to me. I watched Bert many times either send people home, and of course, he wasn't literally saying, buy a ticket and go home to Italy, but but maybe, but maybe that would be important. But he was saying, return to where you come from so that you can get to where you're going. That's my phrase, right? Return to where you come from so that you can actually arrive at where you're heading. Because if we don't actually return to where we come from, we never get to arrive. It will never be enough.
Susie,
So your client,
I
yeah.
have to stop you because it's a beautiful sentence, but then when I try to break it, I get lost. What does it even mean to go back? Is it agreement to what happened? What exactly is it?
So it's agreement to what happened in the sense of trauma and all of that. But it's also agreement to what happened in the sense of life. So when I talk about my father, you hear me talk about trauma because that's like the thing that's like this, like I can feel that, right? But then I also talk about, because I can conjure it, because it's a part of me, I talk about music. I talk about the smell of foods. I talk about perhaps the soil. Right? So the return is a return in a kind of cellular, embodied way, not only to the difficult things in terms of agreement, but agreement to life as it came to me, right? I'm agreeing to life as it came to me, which, yes, includes the negative, but we're so good at only including the negative.
Yeah.
Right? But I am not made up of trauma. I am not trauma. I am bigger than trauma. You are bigger than trauma. We are bigger than our separations, right? There are places where we split off in order to take care of people, in order to dissociate from experience. But the thing is, actually, the container of us is bigger than all of those parts.
Yeah.
And so we are looking for the outline of home so we can call our parts back and they have some place to be.
When I'm thinking about home, it's interesting because usually home is like a shelter, but I'm actually thinking about something underneath. Every time I get
Mhm.
lost and I don't know, or I don't know, I feel bad or something, I always think what's underneath me so I can rest. Um,
Right, because the structure doesn't stand without a foundation, right?
yeah, yeah. Susie, we are getting close to closing. Um, Share with me something that you love to have in your home.
People.
People, wow.
I do really love welcoming people. And I do, and my taste is very eclectic, which is probably not all that surprising. And the people I welcome into my home are pretty eclectic. And there's something that feels really essential to who I am, even though I don't know the philosophy behind it. If you know what I mean, it's like my way in the world, but I don't have a t-shirt that describes it or a hat with a slogan. I just know where and how I gravitate. And I know that that is, in a way, amplifying something behind me.
You surprised me. It's very beautiful. I was thinking you're going to say, this table or this picture or something, but people,
So I'll
yeah.
tell you something about that. That's interesting that you say that. I'm looking around, and I cherish. So it's funny. We have the expression "my belongings," right? The things that belong to me. I cherish them, but I'm not attached to them. So I cherish them. I value them. But if I lost them, I would just travel lighter. I'm actually not attached to them.
Yeah. I hear it. And it takes me to one time that I had to pack all my house into a storage. I left, and then I had to say goodbye to whatever was in the storage, which was pretty good things, along with my creations, my, art
Yeah,
stuff and all. And that was not easy for me. Um, but I understand the essence is if we can keep the essence in, we're safer.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Hi, Susie, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We
Thank
came we
you. It
came
was
to the hour. Um I I don't know. I don't want to say goodbye. Like we finished the five
good
times we
session,
said
right?
we're gonna say
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
gonna be,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
I have this feeling of, yeah, but there's a future ahead of us. So that's like
I
relaxes me.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I love, actually, maybe it's a little bit like the belongings. Like, I really like the idea, and I've gotten used to it, right? So it was not the easiest thing for me, but over time, I have gotten used to the rhythm of completing and then choosing again. And I think that's exactly the rhythm.
Beautiful. So complete. Thank you, Susie, again for
You,
for everything that you bring.
you,
Um, you can be found at SuziTucker.com. You're doing so many things, and I truly recommend it. Now I'm a part of your cohort 14 supervision for facilitators, and I enjoy it very much. And I definitely wait to meet you again, whatever setup it is.
I look forward to it, and we're working on it. So
Yes,
I am very happy about that.
we are. Just to kind of look at what we talked today. We talked about home, whatever it means to the people who are listening. And I really truly recommend for each one of you to check what is home for you. but I think what I'm taking from here is again that the essence, what's inside, when it's inside me, I'm actually safer in the world.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I also love that you did buy a house and you can call it home, and taking this big chance, because life is to take risks so we can, expand our understanding about things. Um, yeah.
I
So,
I'll just say one quick thing about that because I think it is, it's both literal. I did buy a house and it's metaphorical. There's something about as I have kind of come to travel lighter, I can invest braver, right? And again, I think that comes from this like stronger sense of wherever I go, my belonging is with me. It's in me. I don't bend myself to the desires or needs of others quite so much. I do sometimes, and I can feel it almost. My back hurts. I get a headache. Something is out of alignment. But I certainly don't do it as much, and I catch myself earlier.
wow, that's great. So, please repeat for me. Whenever I go, I take my belonging with me.
Yes, my belonging comes with me. I don't ask others to provide it.
Yeah. Okay. And with that, we are complete.
Thank you, Iris. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Susie. Thank you so much.
Beautiful questions.